Delta Airlines reacting to United's PR nightmare. The company reportedly is authorizing increased compensation, I should say, to passengers who give up their seats on overbooked flights. This, of course, after that United video showing a passenger, Dr. David Dow, being dragged off an overbooked United flight. Dow's attorney yesterday calling for fundamental changes in the airline industry.
We want fairness in how people treat us. We want respect, and we want dignity. That's it. Not a big deal. This seems so simple.
Joining us now, Gary Leff, blogger for View from the Wing and co-founder of the Mile Point Frequent Flyer community. How you doing today, Gary?
Hi, John. Doing great, thank you.
Good. So listen, overbooking is pretty common in the airline industry, right?
Overbooking is common, and that's not exactly what happened here. The airline tried to put some of their own employees on the plane instead of passengers, and they looked for volunteers. But airlines do sell more seats than there are seats available on a given plane.
Because they know that some people just are not going to show up for the flight for whatever reason.
Yeah, people change their plans. They're able to do that. They miss a flight, and usually you don't lose your entire ticket value when that happens. And as long as that's the case, then they're going to need to sell more tickets in order to get the most people out in the seats when the plane takes off.
So United had offered passengers $800 plus a free night's hotel stay if they would get off the plane. Nobody, well, I guess there were 3 people who took advantage of that offer, but they still needed a 4th. And when nobody would step forward, Dr. Dow became the unfortunate victim here. Delta Airlines is doing what? Offering more than double that number?
Well, so first of all, they didn't have takers at the voluntary. They did take some people off involuntarily. Other people got off willingly. Dr. Dow did not. What Delta Airlines reportedly is doing is authorizing their employees to go up to a higher amount than they used to be able to go up to. This isn't going to be a very costly thing. They don't involuntarily deny boarding to very many people. In the fourth quarter of last year, it was only about 340 people at Delta. And the idea is that employees in some cases would have the discretion to spend a little bit more money to take care of those cases where the lower voluntary denied boarding compensation just isn't enough.
Well, I'm sure in hindsight, United wishes it had done the same thing. I'm just guessing that if you had offered somebody $1,000, they would have been willing to get off that plane, not that much more than the $800 they were offering.
Well, it's hard to know in hindsight, and certainly given how terrible the event that happened was, they would have been happy to spend more money. One of the difficult things, aside from all the screw-ups that led to the situation in the first place, is that they're desperately trying to get the plane out on time. They're trying to not lose a takeoff window. They're trying to make sure that crew don't necessarily work too many hours, that they're not able to continue working that day and have to cancel the flight. It's a very stressful time, and you certainly understand that, although unquestionably everything that possibly could have gone wrong here did.
You have said that United sort of blindly copies Delta most of the time, so would you expect that there's going to be an increase in the amount that United is willing to offer to match what Delta reportedly is doing?
Well, there's certainly the case that airlines are going to want to both fix their PR and stave off potential regulatory or legislative moves against them to do this for them. And so I think that we'll see airlines being more aggressive in trying to make sure that customers aren't being involuntarily denied boarding, especially in the case of an oversale.
All right. So what do you say to frequent flyers, flyers of any kind, really, who might find themselves in the position of Dr. Dow, where somebody says, look, we're overbooked and you have to get off the plane?
Well, his situation was so bad and so much of an outlier that I'm not going to suggest that he could have done something differently and solved his problem. But what most frequent flyers can do is first make sure when you buy a ticket you have a seat assignment, because people without seat assignments are going to be the first ones involuntarily bumped. Second is make sure that you check in right when you're able to, 24 hours out, because check-in time is usually a tiebreaker for determining who gets bumped as well. Third, make sure you're at the gate at the appointed time to start boarding, if you can be, because if the gate agent closes that door early, even if they're not supposed to, they might start giving out your seat, earlier than their usual 15 minutes before departure rule is going to suggest. Additionally, airlines now have these low basic economy fares. You do run a greater risk if you're on those low fares. They're looking at who paid the cheapest fares on the plane. So if you're going to avoid those anyway, this is another reason. And finally, if you fly enough, maybe 25,000 miles a year, to stick with one airline, anyone that earns the lowest level of elite status really does have a free pass for the most part on those involuntary denied boardings.
That's some good advice. The View from the Wing. Gary Leff, the founder of that blog. Gary, thanks very much.